What is up, everybody? Skratch coming up with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we got Brewski on the channel with us, guys. We're gonna talk about legendary champions and epic champions that can be used without skill tomes. So don't waste your books on these champions unless you're a mega kraken and you don't care about all that. These champions will be very efficient without books as well, and there are not many in the game. Cold Brew, what's up, brother? Nice to have you on the channel.
All good, man. All good. Over here in my part of the world, it's raining a lot, but other than that, all good. Just working on raid, working on everything. Everything looks good.
That's good. You got the Rihanna with the umbrella, yeah, to help you out, yeah?
Exactly.
That's why you need one, is a lot of rain. So, guys, how I mentioned, there are a few epic champions, there are a few legendary champions that can work and be very powerful without skill tomes. Now, of course, I do have to mention this. Every single champion in this game will be a bit better with books. Regardless of what you're hearing, everybody will benefit from books. Either more damage, either a skill cooldown reduction. But leaving that on the side, Cold Brew, you want to talk about the very first champion?
I mean, she is the queen of terminator reduction. She was great on dungeons initially, and now she's just amazing for not just dungeons but also the Doom Tower. It's the one and only Allure. That A1 skill just is straight up reducing the terminator on each hit. Doesn't even need the books to do the job it's supposed to do. And Allure is, I would say, the queen of the whole video. It's why you should be very, very careful when looking at a champion. Like, does she need books? No? That's amazing. I can get full value out of her. Yeah.
Yeah, because she just gets a bit of extra damage, but she doesn't hit that hard anyway, so it's not really gonna help you much. Plus, the rest of the skills are not really good.
Not that important.
Yeah, not that important. The main thing is the A1 on her. I 100% agree on this champion. I'm gonna take you to the next one. Let's see. Probably you're knowing it already, but we're talking about Doom Priest, another champion very similar with Allure. She doesn't need books because everything that she brings is in the passive. Heals all allies and removes a random debuff. Now, of course, you are getting increased attack from the A2. So if you're lucky with one book, you're going to get an increased attack on a 3-turn cooldown instead of a 4-turn cooldown. But still, this champion can work wonders without using any books whatsoever, because the A1 is just extra damage. And Doom Priest doesn't really do that much damage all around. You can still use the champion in Clan Boss, in a Doom Tower, whatever you guys need to use the champion with 0 books.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I love Doom Priest because she's so free-to-play friendly. And if you get her, if you're doing a free-to-play challenge, right? Everybody seems to be doing one these days. It's the one champion you want that's going to benefit you and will take you, a long way, because you don't need to put anything in terms of books. You just need a few levels. It's a support champion, so what you get is you don't need critical rate, you don't need any of those crazy stuff, just some speed, health, defense, and she'll do what she's supposed to do. Be a great cleanser, and if you get lucky, you'll get some buffs and you'll get the increased attack buff as well. It's an overall amazing champion.
100%.
And I'm going to take it over to the next one, right?
Yes, please.
I will go over to the Undead Hordes.
Okay.
With the one and only Vogoth, right? Vogoth has a very interesting kit. Very interesting kit because of the way that he works with getting hit. And if you want to make him better for dungeons and use a lot of his kit, you need the books, I would say, for the passive. But it doesn't mean you have to use the books. The books just make him extra special. And what he does, it's already there. And at a very good chance, he can still provoke and also apply the increase of cooldown on a random skill on his passive. He does the healing from AoE attacks without any books. He still does the A1 with a solid chance to increase the duration of debuffs. He still has the provoke. He's a very solid champion without books. And I would say the passive healing is what makes him extra special for those very hard-hitting bosses, which is why he's on this list.
Absolutely, but I feel like most of the people are using Vogoth for this passive. I don't think most of them are using Vogoth for let me provoke the wave in the Doom Tower when I'm getting to the boss, or let me provoke the champion in Arena. No, they're mainly using it for this passive, which doesn't require books, and this is kind of like where his true value as a champion stands in this actual passive. 100% agree with this champion as well. And let us know in the comments down below, guys, what champions can you use without books and still get the most out of it. Books is still the biggest problem in the game at the moment, in a way or another. We're just not getting enough to make the most out of all the champions, you know. I'm gonna take it over to the next, and that is going to be no one else but Mr. Vrask. I know you like this champion, Bruski.
Yeah, I do.
So
It's
again,
an amazing champ.
Again, with him, you're not getting cooldown on the A1. You're getting a cooldown on the A2, but this skill just attacks one enemy. It doesn't do nothing else, okay? It attacks one enemy. The A1 does the same plus something else. So we don't even want to use this skill whatsoever. What we want to get from a Vrask, the passive again, heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP whenever this champion inflicts a critical hit. So this is one thing to keep in mind, because you're getting him to full crit rate, HP, and then just use the A1, A1, A1. He doesn't need to deal damage in order to have a stronger heal. It's just his total HP. Probably this might be the ultimate best champion to use with no books in the entire game, I think. What do you think?
In terms of support, yeah, because the terminator reduction is not always useful. But the healing is always useful. You'll always, get hit. You need some kind of backup, and that healing that Vrask has is very simple but very, very effective.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. You want to take us over to the next champion?
Next one is going to be a Void champion, more difficult to get, but it's Cardinal from the Sacred Order, right? She is an amazing champion for what she provides, right? She has an insane revive that can be very good for arena situations. And for arena, most of the time, you're not going to need to go over and get your skill again, especially if it's a longer cooldown skill. You won't really benefit from that. And what you really want is to use what the kit provides. So she revives all dead allies and gives them a boost of their Terminator to max, which is insane. Once you have that going, you know that you'll get your defense down, you'll get your damage dealer to go, and you'll get your burst to go against the enemy team. And she's insane for that and needs 0 books to do it. With books, you can get the cooldown down, but that doesn't make any difference on how useful Cardinal could be.
Yeah, 100%. Like, most of the people that use Cardinal, and if you want to use Cardinal, you're going to probably throw her in arena, either in tag team arena, in classic arena, and you're going to build a strategy around her. So you let the team die, she's reviving, they're taking their turn, nuking the enemy team, game over. You don't need books for that, because she's doing it anyway on a 7-turn cooldown. The fight is ended after. If you don't manage to one-shot them, you're not going to have 5 more turns with her to revive again. It's just going to be game over if you don't do the job from the very first try.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm going to take it over to the next champion, and that is actually from the same faction, another Void Epic, and that is no one else but Inquisitor Shamael. So this is another champion, guys, that, yes, will benefit from books if you want to make him to deal extra damage. If you're using him for the Hydra, you actually don't want him to deal that extra damage, because the main thing that matters is the passive. Each critical hit fills the champion's turn meter, and whenever an ally receives a fear or a true fear debuff from an enemy, this skill will instantly remove the debuff. So that's what matters, the passive. This doesn't require books. The A1 only gives you damage and an extra chance to decrease the duration of a random buff, which is really not relevant in most of the content with Inquisitor Shamael. And then the A2, it only gets damage, no cooldown reduction either. So it's just very hard to justify booking the champion, as how I mentioned, if you're not a Kraken. If you're a Kraken, you're not gonna care about saving books, but if you are looking to preserve books, this is another champion that I think it shouldn't be booked, and he's still gonna give you 90% of the value without a problem.
Yeah, 100% agree. I don't know if your viewers remember, way back when the Hydra was released, we started building Shamael's like crazy, because he was so good for that head of Torment. We had no idea how to beat the Hydra, and Shamael just made a lot of sense, and he was actually broken a little bit for what we were trying to do, to try and get those keys into Hydra and get the rewards. And he was amazing, and he's still amazing.
Absolutely,
for Hydra.
Pretty fun
Taking
champion.
it over to the barbarians this time.
Yep.
We're gonna go again. I think the rest of the champs we got are voids.
Mm.
Uh, but they're still worth it because even voids they might be harder to get. Books are even harder, I would say, than getting the champion. So Gaita Shaman is the one I want to talk about. She's very similar to how Cardinal works because you're gonna put that champion in arena or in a situation where you need that A2 skill, right? That A2 skill is a cleanse plus block debuffs plus revive on death. That revive on death will be huge in helping you just revive, but the cleanse I would say is more important because not so many champions have a cleanse plus a block debuff, and especially not so many champions have it plus a revive on death. So she's insane just for that, and doesn't need any books for that to happen. She's also got a great passive, which again with books becomes a little bit better, but still works fantastic with that. And her A1 again, the same thing, only changes the damage that she can do a little bit. So overall, a champion that can still be used for the idea, right? You need the cleanse, you need the revive on death. You want to go in the arena, protect your team, and then you go on and do what your team's goal will be to take the enemies out after you cleanse.
100%. And a lot of people might not know, but all this extra healing that you're getting from books is not actually gonna be added to this. So damage is actually what is the healing. So it's not like increasing the healing, right, with 20% on top of the 10%, as an example, you know. It's actually not the way it works. It's gonna be 20% from the 10%. Okay, so just so you know, it's not additive, you know.
Yeah, it's not additive, so it doesn't affect that much.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a minimal difference in there when you're booking the champions. I'm gonna take it over to the next champion, and this as well is gonna be a Void Epic champion. And yes, she might benefit from cooldowns, but if you just want her to do her job, again, arena-wise, even dungeon-wise, depending on what sort of teams you're running, you know, Madame series and her Midnight Ritual, 100% chance to remove the buffs and 100% chance to land the debuffs. Is on a 6-turn cooldown without books. It's still gonna do the job. How I mentioned, if you're engaging in very strong arena fights, most probably you'll be struggling a lot regardless. So yes, it can be a bit more helpful to have her booked, of course, but even without books, she's still gonna be able to do the job. Even if you are planning to book these champions down the line, at least you can prioritize them to the end of the list, you know, and put other champions that really need the books in front of them, and then slowly make your way towards these champions, you know. I feel like Madame series is one of those champions as well, you know.
Yeah, exactly that decreased attack and decreased defense is insane. I would only see the benefit of books if you're using her for dungeons, which not many people are, because of the longer cooldown, and it's not as good as other decreased defense, decreased attack champions. It's still good, but it's not as good, and because of the 4-turn cooldown, even when booked, it's still quite long. But for arena, this is amazing, and that's where the majority of players are using Madame Series. Overall, her kit is amazing, and eventually you'll book her out, but she's not the number one
priority.
I would say in many, the number one priority.
I feel the same.
Next one is a very similar one in the sense of you can book her out, but you don't need to. And it's the one and only Sylar, which I've made videos before. I love this champion because I feel like she's such a solid champion.
Is that because of the costume?
Yeah, of course. 95% because of the costume, 5% because of the skills. You got me there, Skratch. That A3 skill, lead and legs, is so good for arena, which is what many players will be using her until they find something else, right? She's very strong as almost like having Alessandra. Obviously not as good as Alessandra, but still very good. Decreased speed, decreased turn meter by 40%. That is insane of a skill to have on a Void champion. You don't care about affinities. It's not an attack. It's an amazing skill. You just give her some accuracy and speed, and you'll win the turn meter battle if you have set up everything correctly and you manage to go with your turn meter booster. She can go next. You can do all sorts of different combinations. Her other skills, the A2 and A1, have an AoE attack, which don't really need books for them to do anything, because you're not going to use Salar as a damage dealer. You use her in a stun set most of the time for dungeons, so you can do also that. Use her in a stun set without any books and still get a lot of benefit out of Salar because of the control that she'll give, plus the A3 skill.
Absolutely, I totally agree on Sylar. She can definitely do the job without books. Again, it's just the cooldowns on the A3, but you're still getting a lot of value out of this champion. I'm gonna take us over to the last epic that we have on the list. Then we're gonna move over to legendaries, because there are a few legendaries that can work without books as well. At least not prioritizing the books on them as fast as possible. You can wait with that. I'm gonna take us all the way to the dwarves right here, and is none else but Runekeeper. And this is another champion that, yes, is mainly about the cooldowns. Like you see, the A2 increases the attack and the turn meter. Guaranteed. It's not a chance for him to do it. So he's gonna do it regardless. Once you've done this skill, you're gonna be able to move to the next skill. Or the other way around, you know, start with this skill with the A3, removes all debuffs from all allies, then heals them, and gives you the continuous heal. This is guaranteed as well, because plenty have started doing a lot of champions recently where they only have like a specific percentage chance to do the job, you know, just because they want us to invest the books in those champions. They're not stupid with it. They know what they're doing to force us to book those specific champions. But these ones, they're still champions that can work without books, guys. You see, you're gonna be able to get them everything out of this champion without booking it, and it's just about the cooldowns, you know.
Yeah, 100%. You gotta, even if a new champion is added into the game, you guys have to realize on what they give. Okay, are they gonna be giving you the cleansing abilities? Are they gonna be giving you turn meter boosting? Do you need the books? If you don't, then don't invest immediately just because you see, oh, new champion. Just read through their skills, realize, okay, do I invest? Do I not? And then you go about with your decision. And all of these champions are a good example of that.
Yeah. Like, I'm just looking at Elva now. 75% chance of removing all debuffs from all allies. Excuse me. Like, why only 75%? Why not 100% chance? And I don't know. it's so ridiculous, no?
It's exactly because they want you to invest.
Exactly. Without books, that champion is not reliable anymore. So you're forced to invest books in a champion if you want to get the most out of it. You want to take us over to Legendary Skullbrew, what we have on the list?
Let's get started with Xayvia, right? Xayvia is an amazing champion where you use her for Poison Explosion. If you've never seen what that does, is you spread around poisons and you need something to blow them up. And Xayvia is exactly doing that. She attacks all enemies and then dealing damage from the poison debuffs that are already on the target. So you'll have a setup going where poisons will be applied by other champions and she'll do just the explosion part, right? It's an amazing skill, and her damage does not depend. Her damage from her skill does not depend on books. It depends on the poisons, right? So the damage that she does initially from the skill can be boosted with books, but the poison explosion part does not depend on the books, and that is how Xayvia is used. And then you use some other champions to reset the skills, and it's a proper team setup. But for this specific role, Xayvia fits for our video.
Absolutely. And with the A1, like, you're landing poisons, right? It's a giant slayer. You're not increasing the chance of landing poisons with the A1 either. You know, it's just natural. You're just increasing the damage. Yes, the A2 will definitely benefit from books, but still all around it's not going to be 100% chance. It's not a cooldown reduction on the skill. It's just a slightly higher chance to land the poison. So I feel like this is a very good example of a champion that can do a pretty good job without books. So don't really stress about prioritizing the books in her early on. I'm going to take it over to the next champion, and this is a bit more dependable of what you're planning to do with her. Cisia Flametongue, okay? I don't actually have her on the account, but most of the people know that Cisia, she is amazing in the spider, right? And when you are building Cisia for the spider, you don't want her to deal damage. If she deals damage, she's killing the spiderlings, and the HP burn doesn't actually detonate to deal damage on the boss anymore. That's the thing that Cisia does, and you want to make sure you're not getting extra damage, you're not getting anything from here. This champion can work with almost no gear and no books whatsoever, because she only needs to instantly activate any HP burn. You don't even want to have accuracy on her, because she can land weaker and defense down, which will deal more damage on the spiderlings, killing them faster and messing up your entire combo. But
Yeah.
she's a very good example as well of a champion that can work, do the job much better than with books, actually, funny enough, you know.
Yeah, that's how I would have wanted my CCO to be, but I booked her up, and that proved to be like an investment that wasn't needed. Like, you don't need the books, you don't need the gear, you just give her speed boots and she'll work. It all depends on the setup, and especially for legendary champions, you gotta know which ones you don't need to put all that investment in. One of them also is Ronda, that everybody watching the video, like a good percentage, will not even have her booked. And it's good to know that you don't need to have her booked for what you're trying to do. Obviously, for longer fights, having such a champion booked, especially for PvE, it's better. It gives you more. But for stuff like her A1 skill, which does a triple hitting attack or even a multiple hitting attack if the target's under 50% HP, or her A2 skill if you're trying to block the passive skills or the active skills from an enemy, you don't need the books to have those debuffs apply. She just applies them. It's just the cooldowns and damage that gets boosted, which is obviously better. But she still gives you the ability to get a lot of value out of your attacks, just because of how her kit is made, and doesn't need the books to have that 100% chance to place.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I would justify booking Ronda either if I'm trying to maximize my clan boss damage, or if I'm trying to maximize the damage that I'm doing in arena, because I'm playing high-end arena and I really want her to be spot on. But if no, it's just a couple of cooldowns and just extra damage. That's all. She can work perfectly fine without books, and probably a lot of you guys know that because she's a free champion in the game now. Everybody can get her, so it's pretty straightforward. You get her, level her up, play her around, and you can see that she does an amazing job without books as well, you know. The next champion that we have on the list is actually a Doom Tower champion, and a lot of people are always asking me, Skratch, can I use this champion to do the Scarab King without books? 100% yes. Euros the Soul Cage doesn't need the books to do the job. Yes, you can book him and he's gonna be slightly faster in doing the exact same job that he can do without books. But the main thing that you wanna get from Euros as well is the passive. And yes, it will increase the chance of landing the poison by 25%. But again, you do not need it. This champion needs quite a few books all around for the rest of the skills, which won't really be relevant to you. You're mainly gonna use him for this passive, and it's pretty hard to get lucky and just dodge all the other 3 skills and land 3 books in the passive and run away, you know. So you can definitely use Euros to solo Scarab without books, guys, just so you know, once you're gonna get him from the Doom Tower.
Yeah, 100% agree. There's no reason to put all those books when he can do the one job that everybody uses him for the Scarab King, and
exactly,
go over using other champions. Very similar. The next champion is very similar to Xavia, so I'm gonna cover that as well. It's Elenarl. She does exactly the same thing as Xavia. Not so well, I would say, but she still has 2 very strong skills that don't need books. The one is the A1, which is an HP burn that cannot be resisted, and you don't need books to have that HP burn apply. And her damage doesn't really matter, because what you're using here is for HP burns and poison explosion on her A3 skill, which just gets the benefit of lower cooldowns when it's fully booked. But if you're using something like a Prince Kaimar, you don't even need that you don't even need the books on Lenarl to get that going. Her A2 skill also places poisons and doesn't need the books to have that at 100%. So overall, an amazing champion to use for a poison explosion team without book investment, at least initially, or if you have also the Prince Kaimar for the proper reset and you're not using something like a Renegade. It also depends on what other champions you have.
Absolutely. But how you mentioned, like, she does all the job without needing the books. It's literally just the cooldowns on this champion as well, and I totally agree on Elenarl. The next champion that we're gonna have on the list, guys, I really feel like you're not getting much out of it from booking this champion, and that's gonna be no one else but Norog. So on the A1, he has a chance to place a block active skills. Yes, you can book him for a slightly higher chance, but is it really worth it? The A2 is 100% chance to land the block buffs on a 4-turn cooldown. Booking the champion, it just gains you extra damage and 1 cooldown. So again, is a champion that can work without books. He's still gonna do an amazing job because he's 100% chance to land the debuff. That's very, very important. The passive doesn't require books. And there you go. Mr. Norog, for whoever uses it, you don't really need the books. He can be the stun targeting clan boss without any books because the passive doesn't have a cooldown or anything like that, you know. So
yeah, the passive is pretty strong, and that's why you want to have a look at those champions with strong passives that don't need books at all, and you're just going to use them for that. Probably like Norog and more to Macabre, like the next one in our list, is the one that has the secret peril skill, which does insane amounts of damage and doesn't need a single book to do so. Many players out there don't even book their Mortu Macabres, right? It's more of the advanced players, the platinum players that go heavy with the books. But if you're just going to use Mortu for that crazy defense, you don't need to put any book on him. You just put him there tanky enough with a lot of health, a lot of damage, and wait on the enemies to attack you and get that peril proc. Boom, you take them out and you win the defense battle, right?
absolutely,
Amazing champion.
100%. He doesn't need the books. If you want to book him, it's mainly for his A2, and that's literally only at the very high end of arena, guys, where you're able to give him accuracy, and you're booking him in the hope that he's gonna land the block buffs on some of the nukers to kind of like mess them up and lose their increased attack, or I don't know, something like that. But the chance of it to happen is very minimal, and it's very hard to justify to book the champion. How you mentioned, everything that matters about this champion is in the passive, which don't require any books for anything, you know. The next champion that we actually have on the list is gonna be Queen Eva. Now, this champion is just kind of like known for doing campaign, right? Like I've tried using her in other content and she just doesn't do much. Shame, because design-wise, she is one of the best looking characters in the entire game. Like, she just looks sick. But the whole thing that matters on her is the A3. So attacks all enemies and resets the cooldowns on each of these champions' skill if any target is killed. 15% extra chance to inflict a critical hit. You're constantly gonna use this skill farming campaign, and constantly everything is gonna get decreased. So you don't need books, only if you wanna gain extra damage and a shorter cooldown on this skill. That's about it pretty much, you know, but she can easily do campaign without a problem, without having any books. Like, I really think would be a waste to book her, honestly.
Yeah, no books required, and honestly, not even masteries sometimes. If you've got the gear, you don't even need to spend your gems to get masteries on her, and she'll still do what she's supposed to and be your campaign farmer if she's the one that you want to have.
Absolutely.
Next one here, it's going to be Vizier. All right, another great champion, great clan boss champion. He was used for some time a little bit for the Bommel boss on the Doom Tower, but I would say that his priority and most oftenly used is for the clan boss and for his A1 skill, which extend the duration of debuffs. If you give this champion a counterattack buff or a retaliation gear where he counters when he gets attacked, right? If that setup works like that, then you don't even need the books on him to get his chance to extend the duration to 50%. You just stay with that 35%. It's a triple hitting attack. So over the course of the clan boss fight, you'll have a lot of those debuffs extended to a very, very high duration. And it's what makes him so special and such a god of the clan boss.
Absolutely. Like, yes, it will increase a bit the chance if you're booking him, but he can do the job without books if you're running him in a counter attack team, an ally attack team, or you're giving him a retaliation accessories. He's definitely gonna help a lot, and 50% chance is still not astronomical. It's better than the 35%, of course, but it's a triple hitter, so one of them will proc every now and then. You should be more than fine without books. The rest of the skills, yeah, this is a bit of a cooldown in here. The A2, you don't really want to use this on clan boss because of heal reduction and block buffs. They both actually go as debuffs on the clan boss, so that will mess you up. And we're not really using this champion on the Bommel anymore. You need a very high-end team in order to use him on the Bommel, and you need very high resistance, very strong gear, and most of those people, they're already booking all their champions. They don't care about books. So for the rest of you guys out there, kind of like keep that in mind. Actually, Cold Brew, I don't know if you remember, but you pulled my very first vizier on my account. You remember? I said, Cold Brew, you want to open my 5 sacreds? And I was like, I want to get a vizier. And you got me a vizier. I was like, damn, magic.
Yeah, it was magic.
That was actually sick. Yeah,
it was an amazing shard pull,
yeah,
for sure. I wish I had that. I wish I had that kind of luck.
The last champion that we have on the list, guys, another legendary champion, and that is going to be no one else but Calvalex. Now, mainly you're going to use this champion with poison detonation champions. That's kind of like the whole thing behind his kit. And mainly you're going to use him for this crazy passive. Places 4-5% poisons debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns at the start of each round. You see, no books whatsoever. You don't need to book the champion for this. A lot of times you're kind of like barely giving him any gear. You just want him to go do the passive. Xavier, Elena Rill, or another champion will come in, clean up after, and move over to the next wave at a boss. A lot of times, once they're using their passive, you want them to die, so you don't have any slower animations. Now, yes, you can use him on higher end teams, and getting the extra damage can benefit you a bit, but you're only getting damage. Nothing else out of the skills there except the A1, which has a slightly higher chance to increase the duration of poisons. But by the time he's gonna get to use the A1, probably the poison detonation champion is already dropping the poisons from the rest of the team, so it becomes a bit more irrelevant. But these are probably, guys, the top 20 champions we would recommend you to don't use books on. At least put them on your last priority, you know, like book them the last, prioritize other champions that are more important in terms of skills, books. Let us know in the comments down below if you think we missed anyone, what other champions can do wonders without books. Cold Brew, was a pleasure to have you on the channel, buddy. You want to let us know what's happening with the channel, what you have planned for the next couple of weeks, month or so?
Well, yeah, it was a fun collab. I'm definitely streaming a little bit more on YouTube. So if you ever want to see a stream live of me just playing Raid on my account on YouTube, definitely check it out. I did a Hydra team today, so that was fun, a lot on stream. So yeah, definitely check that out. And who knows what else, you know, Raid has for us this year.
Absolutely. Hopefully something good, you know. I'm gonna leave the link to his channel in the pinned comment. Make sure you guys head over and show him some love. Appreciate all of you guys watching. Much love, and we'll catch you all soon in the next one. Peace.